Always great to make it to Eastlake at the end of the year. You know, it means you've had a very solid season. And yeah, you know, I've had a lot of success at Eastlake over the years, and you know, this is my 9th time at Eastlake, and I've won a couple of them, and you know, I've had chances, and you know, the majority of the times I've been here to win the FedEx Cup. So yeah, great to have another opportunity to try to do something that no one's ever done before. You know, in the short history of what the FedEx Cup is. But yeah, excited to be back. I felt like I got my golf game together a little bit better in Wilmington last week, and played okay. I need to make a few more putts this week to have a chance. But yeah, you know, just want to give it another solid week, and you know, try to finish the PGA Tour season on a high before I have a whopping 5 days off before I go over to Europe and start playing over there.
All right, well, we will go ahead and open up with questions, and what we'll do, we'll take questions for a little bit, and then we'll have Mike McCarley from Tomorrow Sports come up and discuss today's announcement, and we'll take some additional questions about that. So with that, if you have any questions, just go ahead and raise your hand, and we will get a microphone over to you. Okay, start right here.
Rory, obviously with all of the conversation about LIV and then all of the changes that were announced today, you have taken on a much more active role in the direction that the tour is going. What was the point for you where you decided to be more than just a golfer and to be an actual influence on the direction of the sport going forward?
I don't know if I could pinpoint a time when that happened. I think I've maybe over the last 2 or 3 years just sort of evolved into that role. I think I care deeply about our sport. I care about its history. I care about its legacy. I care about the integrity of the game. And there's a lot of players out here that are like-minded and share that, you know, those same views. So I thought it was just right. I think the one thing that has sort of happened over the years is we all sort of are our own little independent businesses, and we sort of try to compete against each other. And I think this is the first time in a long time where we sort of all sat down and we're like, let's try to be business partners. How can we all pull in the same direction here to benefit everyone and to help the entire tour and to help each other, basically? You know, I said this a few days ago. You know, unfortunately, you know, Tiger Woods doesn't play as much as he used to. Tiger Woods was the single biggest draw that the PGA Tour had, amongst other things. And we have to recognize that. So for, you know, the 23 of us that were in that room last Tuesday night, including Tiger, you know, we all sort of, you know, we all have to sit down and be like, okay, what is the best thing for our tour going forward? What can we do to help put forward the best product possible so that in 50 years' time, the PGA Tour is still thriving, and you know, we can safeguard the future of the tour. And that was basically what last week was about. It was amazing to have Tiger in the room because of, you know, his influence. But all those players, you know, in that room bought into the vision that the Tiger and I and others have sort of came up with. And you know, it's not as if we did this as a renegade group. You know, we kept Jay privy to all these sort of discussions so that he could, you know, try to make some moves internally to try to get stuff happening pretty quickly. And obviously that has culminated in some of the announcements that have been made today. And then I'm sure there will be some changes going forward as well. But, you know, I think today was a great step in the right direction.
All right, I'm just going to go over here to Todd.
And Rory, to follow up on that, with you guys coming together to put this plan on paper now, what do you foresee this action doing to further benefit the health of the PGA Tour starting next season?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I saw a stat yesterday that, you know, apart from the major championships and maybe the players, you know, the top 10 players, top 20 players in the world get together to play against each other one other time during the year. And that just doesn't, you know, I think if you're trying to sell a product to TV and to sponsors and to try to get this, try to get as many eyeballs on professional golf as possible, you need to at least let people know what they're tuning into or what they're tuning in for. When I tune into a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, I expect to see Tom Brady throw a football. When I tune into a Formula One race, I expect to see Lewis Hamilton in a car. Sometimes what's happened on the PGA Tour is we all sort of act independently and we sort of have our own schedules, and that means that we never really get together all that often. And I think what came out of the meeting last week and what Jay just was up here announcing is the fact that we've all made a commitment to get together more often to make the product more compelling.
Okay, it's right here down.
Rory, do you think that your commitment, the other top 20 in this PIP, would have been there if not for the threat of LIV?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think everyone in that room realized that this is the best way forward.
Okay. Also, the announcement today by Jay, these new changes, do you think it will have any impact on the players that were in that room and the 7 that are reportedly going to go to LIV? Do you think there'll be any change?
So my whole thing, I had a conversation with Cameron Smith 2 days after the Open. And firstly, I wanted to congratulate him. But also, I wanted, guys that are thinking one way or another, honestly, I don't care if they leave or not. Like, it's not going to make a difference to me. But I would at least like people to make a decision that is completely informed and basically know this is what's coming down the pipeline. This is what you may be leaving behind. I just don't want people making decisions, hearing information from one side and not from another. So I think that's sort of been my whole thing this entire time. Like, guys can do, and I've always said this, guys can do whatever they want. Guys can make a decision that they feel is best for themselves and for their families. But I just love guys to make decisions based on all of the facts. And sometimes I don't think some guys made those decisions based on having all the facts in front of them.
Okay. All right, we're just going to go right over here in the corner.
Rory, couple things. How concerned, you talk about the future of the game and caring about that. How, even with these changes, how concerned are you still about where the game will be 5 or 10 years from now at the top levels? And can 2 tours coexist?
I mean, a bunch of tours have coexisted over the last, I don't know how many years. You've had the PGA Tour, the European Tour, the Asian Tour, the Sunshine. I mean, there's a million different golf tours that have all been able to coexist in some way. But there's levels. There's levels to it, right? And everyone's trying to make it to the top level of professional golf, which is the PGA Tour. So, look, the PGA Tour are going to do what they're going to do. LIV are going to do what they're going to do. And I think at this point, Jay said it best. The PGA Tour are just trying to control what they can control and try to put forward the best product possible for people to tune into, for sponsors to get excited about, for TV to get excited about, and for the players to get excited about. I mean, I think having the top players in the world playing together more often and competing against each other more often is, I think it's what everyone wants. It's what the players want. It's what the fans want, most importantly. And I think once we solve for that, a lot of the rest of the stuff sort of takes care of itself.
Okay, right down, right.
Rory, I know Tiger at one point was your idol, and now you guys are standing, shoulder to shoulder, trying to save the tour. Can you trace the evolution of your relationship with Tiger, not just on the competitive side, but as businessmen and sort of spokesmen?
Yeah. It's funny. I never in a million years thought that I would be in this position in particular and in this position doing this stuff with Tiger Woods. I said to him the other day, I remember the first golf shot I ever seen him hit live. It was the 5th hole at Mount Juliet whenever the Amex was there in 2002. I drove down with my dad and I watched him hit a drive off the 5th tee and a long iron into the middle of the green, a par 5. And Tiger was my idol ever since I watched him play the 1996 U.S. Amateur. But it's an honor just to get to know him, and he has been an idol and a hero of mine over the years, and I feel pretty lucky that I've gotten to know him more intimately than some. And he is so passionate about what we're doing. He realizes that the PGA Tour give him a platform to build his brand and let him be who he is. And he is so, he has tremendous respect about the people that have come before us. And I think this for him is all about what Jack and Arnie created in the 60s and everyone that has come before us. And I think for someone like me in my generation, trying to do something to respect the generation that came before me, Tiger being the prime example, and just trying to carry that legacy on. I think that's really what he's trying to do here. But having his influence and having his counsel, not just myself, but all of the players on the PGA Tour, he's a great advocate to have, and it's awesome to be doing these things with him. And I have to pinch myself pretty much every day that I'm in this position.
This role of advocate for you, is it energizing or is it depleting?
It's energizing when you can get stuff done. If you're working on stuff for a while and nothing really comes to fruition, then it starts to become heavy. But when you see progress and you break down a couple of barriers, that's energizing.
All right, we're going to go Ryan and then to Eamon.
Rory, what would you say to critics of these new changes who would say it's less of a meritocracy and more towards popularity with some of the PIP changes?
So anyone has a chance to play their way into these elevated events. Anyone has a chance to feature in the player impact program. That's the thing. The reason that we're trying to do this is we're trying to build a tour for the future young, ambitious players that want to be the best players in the game. If you want to be the best player in the game, the PGA Tour is where you want to be, because it is a pure meritocracy. There's nothing stopping guys from playing in these elevated events. There's nothing from stopping guys getting in the PIP. You just play better. You work your ass off, you play better, and if you do that, you will get into these events. And that's as simple as it is. Everyone has the same opportunity. Everyone starts the week at even par, apart from this week. But everyone has the same opportunity at the start of every week to make something of themselves and to compete. And that's the beautiful thing about this tour.
Okay, we're just going to go right here to Eamon.
Rory, the tour had previously talked about creating 3 limited field events for top players overseas in the fall. Now, having created this elevated event series, presumably that's under some question whether or not they do that. Is there a danger that the tour is conceding the rest of the world outside the United States to live or any other entity?
No, I think one of the, we need to make this tour more global. I think that the PGA Tour has taken some steps towards that with the Japan event or the Korean event, and obviously the strategic alliance with the European Tour and sort of figuring out where that will go over time. But I certainly think that there is a lot of opportunity to make this tour more global. I think you look at the membership on tour. You look at the players that are the top players on the PGA Tour. They're not just American. You've got me in there. You've got Europeans. You've got Asian players. You've got South Americans. You've got Australians. I mean, you've got players from all over the world, and I think that the PGA Tour need to be represented in all of those regions in the world.
Okay. All right, we'll do one more with Bob before we transition over.
Hey, Rory. Obviously, several months ago, Phil made some comments about the tour that were pretty harsh. But I'm just wondering if, in light of what we've learned today, if any of his underlying points had some merit. You know, maybe not the egregious ones, but just if you dug down deeper, is there any truth to some of that? And is that why we're seeing this now?
Yeah, as much as I probably don't want to give Phil any sort of credit at all, yeah, there are certain points that he was trying to make, but there's a way to go about them. There's a way to collaborate. There's a way, you get all the top players in the world together and you get them on the same page. You then go to the tour and you suggest ideas and you work together. You know, this was pure collaboration. This wasn't, as I said, this isn't some sort of renegade group trying to take some sort of power grab of the PGA Tour. This is, okay, how can we make this tour better for everyone that's going to play on it now and everyone that's going to play on the PGA Tour going forward? And were some of his ideas, did they have merit? Of course they did. But he just didn't approach it the right way.